How do you properly use a feeler gauge for motorcycle valve adjustment? Are you ready to keep your motorcycle running smoothly? One important task is adjusting the valves, and a feeler gauge is your best friend in this process. So, how do you properly use a feeler gauge for motorcycle valve adjustment? Let's break it down step by step. First, let's clarify what a feeler gauge is. It is a thin strip of metal available in various thicknesses. This tool is essential for measuring small gaps, specifically the gap between the valve and its rocker arm, known as valve clearance. Before you start, gather your tools. You will need a set of feeler gauges, a wrench or screwdriver depending on your motorcycle's valve adjuster type, and your motorcycle's service manual for the correct valve clearance specifications. Next, locate the valve cover and remove it. Make sure the engine is cool to avoid burns and to get accurate measurements. Rotate the engine to the correct position so the valve you want to adjust is fully closed. This usually means finding the top dead center for the cylinder you are working on. Now, select the correct feeler gauge thickness as specified in your manual. Insert the feeler gauge between the valve stem and the rocker arm or adjuster screw. The gauge should slide in with a slight drag. If it slides in easily but a thicker gauge does not fit, your clearance is correct. This method is often called the go-no-go method. If the clearance is not correct, loosen the lock nut on the adjuster screw. Then, turn the screw to increase or decrease the gap. Recheck with the feeler gauge until you achieve the specified clearance with the right amount of drag. Once you have the right adjustment, tighten the lock nut while holding the adjuster screw steady to prevent it from moving. Repeat this process for each valve, checking both intake and exhaust valves as needed. Always refer to your motorcycle's manual for the correct order and specifications, as these can vary between models. A handy tip is to use 3 feeler gauges, one slightly thinner, one at the correct size, and one slightly thicker than the specification. For example, if the correct clearance is 0.8 inches, use 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9 inch gauges. The 0.8 should fit with a slight drag, while the 0.9 should not fit at all. Once all valves are adjusted, reassemble the valve cover and start the engine to check for any unusual noises. Proper valve adjustment helps prevent engine damage and ensures optimal performance. This method is effective for both beginners and experienced mechanics. Always double-check your work and consult your service manual for model-specific details.